Are you tired of feeling bloated and constipated all of the time? Do you want some tips for relief? Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa, and that is exactly what we are going over today. And I am so excited to introduce to you all Norah Candito. She is a functional registered dietitian who specializes in gut and hormone health, who will be dishing out all of her top tips to get you relief today. So Norah, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So I would love to know a little bit of background and what interests you in becoming a dietitian, especially on the functional medicine side.
Yeah, great question. So I was a gymnast growing up, and we never talked about food or nutrition, which is a huge missed opportunity. And I ended up having a lot of injuries, and I got more interested just learning about food in general and how it fuels our body. But I was actually most interested in the connection between what we were eating and how it related to our skin health. I actually wanted to go to school to become a dermatologist. Once I got to school, I started shadowing other registered dietitians to see if this was an opportunity that I could go into this career instead of pursuing a lot more schooling. And that's where I really found my niche, my role. And my journey has really evolved over the span of becoming a dietitian. I did my undergrad at Penn State. I got my master's in clinical nutrition at NYU, and I did my clinical program to become a dietitian at a veterans hospital. And when I was going through my program is when I actually started encountering my own GI and hormone issues. And I had a really frustrating experience with traditional medicine, not getting answers that I was looking for, really being dismissed and not feeling validated in what I was experiencing. And that led me to go down more of this holistic and functional integrative side of things and just treating the body as a whole instead of its individual parts. So a lot of extra research and passion projects on the side is how I decided to become a gut and hormone health dietitian. And I love just marrying the two. I have this traditional training, but I really, really respect and incorporate a lot of those holistic healing modalities into my work now.
That's so awesome. I feel the same way. I love blending that conventional medicine and incorporating my yoga practice and different things. It's much more holistic. It really helps people kind of get that last little % better. That's like, why am I still struggling? It makes such a difference. So that's so awesome. I definitely see in my clients, after I've asked lots of probing questions, that constipation is such a huge problem. So many people struggle with it. I'm sure you see it a lot in your practice, but lots of people aren't talking about it. So how would someone know if they're constipated?
That's a great question. So true definition of constipation is actually going to the bathroom less than 3 times per week. But in my eyes, the ideal is really going daily, at least once. And those bowel movements should feel complete. You should not have this perpetual sensation of always feeling like you could go to the bathroom, or even seeing like the consistency of your stools. They should look a certain way. So we want them to be kind of smooth and consistent and easy to pass instead of feeling really heavy. Maybe they float, or they might be lighter in color. Those are some signs and things that we can look for, even seeing constipation and those changes in the bowel consistency as well.
Lots of things for people to look at. Okay, our bowel movements can definitely tell us so much about our health. I definitely see this a lot with people. Do you notice certain times of the year, or maybe certain times for people that they're more constipated than others? For one, I'm thinking of traveling. I mean, I know when we travel sometimes, like, oh, what's going on with my system? Have you seen that?
Absolutely. And for a lot of different reasons, right? When we're traveling, maybe we're eating differently. Maybe we're not hydrating as well as we normally do when we're at home. The time schedules, even feeling stressed if you are traveling. But even same with change of season, right? If it's colder months, we might not be drinking as many fluids as we do in the warmer months, for example, or our climate is just drier. We have the heat on, and maybe, it's not very humid. So even those changes our body is going to respond to and can impact our digestive system. entirely.
So if somebody notices that they're constipated or feeling constipated, what would be one of their biggest complaints that you might hear in your practice?
Biggest thing that I hear from people is just feeling bloated all the time, honestly. And when I hear that, it's typically a sign to me that there is poor motility, meaning things just aren't really moving well, going from one end to another end. And that can show up as constipation, definitely. So even people that are actually going to the bathroom more frequently, they might still be dealing with some underlying constipation. And that can look like waking up and feeling like you still feel full from the night before, or that you notice that you're not really hitting that kind of reset overnight that you once used to experience. Or even feeling more bloated after meal times, just things are kind of backing up. I even have some individuals that experience some reflux, even due to that poor motility and constipation, because things are just backing up. The system is not flowing well. So it can even show up as some indigestion and discomfort in the upper GI tract, even though they're very far apart.
Definitely lots of things for people to think about if they just think it might be one issue, but it could be something else. So lots of signs and symptoms for them to watch out for.
Definitely. People might also be straining to go to the bathroom. That's a huge sign for me that they're dealing with constipation. Or if even when they're wiping, they have some blood on the toilet paper, to me that usually means they are experiencing some hemorrhoids, which is due to constipation and putting, you know this, a lot of bearing down pressure, which is causing those internal or external blood vessels to rupture. And that's why the blood is really on the paper. If you're seeing blood in the bowl, in your stool, that's a totally different story. But if it's fresh blood and it's on the paper or just kind of on the outside of the stool, that could be a sign too that we're dealing with constipation, hemorrhoids. We need to make some changes.
I loved that you touched on this topic of that pushing and bearing down. I see this so often in a lot of, we don't learn how to go to the bathroom, which this will probably lead us into our next of tips to help with it. But that increase in your abdominal pressure, it puts so much pressure on your pelvic floor muscles, and it's learning how to go to the bathroom, proper positioning, which I know you're going to talk about. Breathing going to the bathroom can be so incredibly helpful for people, because I'm like, the more you keep pushing and bearing down, the worse it's going to get with things. With that, what are some of the tips that you love to dish out? Some simple things that people can start incorporating easily.
Yeah, speaking more to the positioning of things, I talk a lot about bowel training and even using something like a stool or a squatty potty to assist us in getting that position. If you look or even travel to some older European countries, you might see that the toilet is lower to the ground, or some places you are still squatting into the ground. And it's not just because they don't have the same hygiene systems that we have here in plumbing, it's because that is easier for our system. So in the US especially, we're sitting at this 90-degree angle, and our valve, our anal sphincter, is closed off more or less when we're sitting in this 90-degree position. So think about all that pressure that we're putting down to try and go to the bathroom naturally. If we angle our feet, our knees, about 45-degree angle, propping them up on a stool or that squatty potty, that allows that sphincter to relax and makes those movements come out much, much easier. So positioning is huge when it comes to constipation for sure.
Love that one. That's my go-to. It's getting a stool, a squatty potty, and if you're traveling, taking the wastebasket, you can flip the wastebasket upside down, or even stacking toilet paper rolls, but something to get into that squat position. Your pelvic floor muscles will thank you. They are relaxed and they can help push things through.
Yeah.
Love that tip.
That's a big one. And then I also talk about bowel training. So this is something that I've learned, especially for individuals that are having low or slow motility, meaning, things are just not moving well. If you feel sluggish, if things feel like they're taking a really long time to reach the other end, this might be a helpful tip for you. So we actually want to wake and immediately sit on the toilet in that propped position, but relaxed. We're not trying to force a bowel movement. We are not straining, we're not pushing, we're not putting pressure there. I ask people to kind of use this as like their morning meditation time, or maybe they're drinking some warm water or tea or something while they're sitting and relaxing. And this is to help train your system, because again, these are communications from your brain to your bum of, okay, we had a source of input, we need a source of output to keep things moving. It is really just one long tube that is moving the food through the system. So that's the first step, is first thing in the morning, and then aiming for 30 to 40 minutes after meals, sitting again for another 5-10 minutes, whatever your schedule allows for. And this is not something that you have to do for forever. It's just helping to retrain those muscles. I've been hearing a lot about like shy poopers or people that don't feel comfortable pooping in public. This can really mess up your motility, because if your brain is sending that signal to empty and you're ignoring it, then it's going to keep doing that. It's going to stop listening. It's going to stop responding. So that's a big thing that I work with people on, of just getting more comfortable, getting and knowing those implications if we're withholding.
Would you say that, especially you don't know when you're going to have to go to the bathroom, for people, is it good to be on a regular schedule? Like maybe it happens first thing when you wake up in the morning or in the afternoon, or you're an evening pooper. Like, is being on a schedule a good thing to try to get on?
Absolutely. I mean, our bodies thrive off of routine. So the more regular we can be in that routine, the more regular our body is going to respond. And that's another reason why maybe when we're traveling, things are off, because our routine is just different, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love my schedules. Even going down to my bathroom habits, I love my schedules and routines.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So we have the squatty potty, or putting your feet up on a stool, bathroom retraining, being on a schedule. Are there any other tips that you have for people?
Totally. So when it comes to diet and hydration, that's a big piece too of speaking to constipation. So speaking to diet, we need to be incorporating foods that help to move things through our system. And that is mostly these fibers. So they come from fruits and vegetables, or even from grains, and they help to bulk up our stool and keep it moving. So aiming to have a source of one of those at each mealtime is a pretty easy way to make sure we're getting that good fiber in throughout the day. So that would be number one. Number two for me is hydration, making sure that we have enough water, because if we're eating all of that fiber, we need something to help flush it out of the system. So I generally recommend, and this is different per person depending on your activity level and other factors, age also plays a role, but ideally about half of our body weight in ounces is how much water we should be consuming on a daily basis.
And I know that tip, and it's so hard sometimes just to make sure your body is getting as much water. And sometimes you're like, I just don't want to drink that much water.
Totally.
Which I love from working with you. You gave us the tip of using the electrolytes, and we've been using them for the past 2 weeks and have definitely noticed a difference in wanting to drink more from them.
That's great. Electrolytes also help our system to move things through. All of those different channels, all of the cells use those electrolytes to function. We need adequate magnesium to help relax even the muscle systems, to help things to move through. Magnesium is an electrolyte. So, there's a huge component to this, and where that can be beneficial for more than one reason too. Can also naturally flavor water, even using an herbal tea. You can make it iced, you could dilute it if you just want a little bit of flavor in your water, using natural things like lemon juice or lime juice or orange, even just a fresh orange slice. I love to muddle mine in the bottom of the glass before I pour my water in. Small things that are going to help you to just drink more frequently throughout the day.
I'm going to try the muddling and see.
It makes it feel fancy.
I know, right? I'm like, ooh, she said muddling. Let me try muddling my water. That would be awesome. I love that. These are such great tips that people can very easily fit in throughout their day. Would you say maybe you see a big mistake that people are making with constipation?
Sure. Really interesting. I had a recent client that got pregnant and was feeling very constipated beforehand. And the only thing that's changed since she's gotten pregnant is that she is eating more frequently. So her constipation has gone away completely. So making sure that we're getting enough nutrition in, because we need to have a source of input in order to have a source of output, that's the first big thing. And then we already talked about ignoring the sensation when our body is naturally giving us a cue that we need to go to the bathroom, trying to honor that, trying to find a place where you feel comfortable enough to do that, having that routine in place when you know that your body typically goes to the bathroom. Being in a place where you can go is going to be really, really helpful. Definitely.
That's great. I've definitely seen with some of my clients, and I see constipation coming up more and more with younger kiddos, and a lot of them, their go-to is to have something like Miralax to help them go. And I'm like, I don't think that's a forever solution. And the kids just end up staying stuck on it. Do you see that with people that come to work with you?
Yeah. And I used to work in pediatrics as well, and I would see that all the time. But even natural ways to help if you are feeling backed up for whatever reason, even incorporating those pea fruits. So peaches, pears, plums, prunes, the dried versions, they naturally contain a specific type of sugar alcohol that helps to draw more water into your system and go to the bathroom. So there's a reason why incorporating prune juice, even for some individuals, helps them to go to the bathroom. And this is why. So in addition to those fibers and everything, this can be a really helpful tool, especially if you're traveling, making sure you have some of those handy to be able to go to the bathroom too.
I love all of these tips. I'm gonna jot them down, especially next time we're traveling. I'm like, all right, do these.
Totally.
I'm definitely saying I'm gonna do the more water. That's the one thing I feel like all of this year I've been drink more water, Melissa, drink more water. Working on that one for sure.
And there are some fundamental causes for constipation too. Outside of just ignoring those cues, it can be caused by medication use as well. Things that slow down our motility, like muscle relaxants, that's something that might be needed, or even pain medication if you're recovering from surgery, but they can really slow down your system. And even some medical conditions like dealing with hypothyroidism, this is something I see so commonly, and it slows everything down. So you might notice weight change, but especially this constipation piece where your motility is just really, really slow, sluggish. Everything just feels kind of heavy and slow. Those are some pretty fundamental things. And then even stress. Stress is a big thing that can cause, when everything is just tightened, it's going to be harder for our body to also go to the bathroom. It impacts the amount of stomach acid our body is secreting, all of those digestive juices that even help us to move the food through and absorb the nutrition can result in some constipation if we're feeling off.
You bring up such a big point with the stress. I mean, who hasn't been stressed, especially these days? And when you tell someone, oh, your problems are because you're stressed, then that stresses them out even more. And I love working with my clients and in my yoga practice, just getting people to move a little bit more. It helps get the stress out. Plus, it gets things moving for them. Lots of different twists and breathing exercise I find to be so helpful for people who are struggling with constipation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love those tips. Even something as simple as just cooking your foods. If you notice that your digestion is feeling funky, trying to lean on more of those cooked foods, easier to digest things, and notice if that results in making your bowel movements easier as well. So, we talked about a lot of different diet strategies, but that is a really easy, tangible tip. Just cook things down, make it easier on your system.
All right, these have been such amazing tips for people to start working on, from cooking your food more to making sure you're staying hydrated, the electrolytes, being in a squat position, not pushing and bearing down, the bathroom retraining. So people have so many things that they can start working on, maybe focusing on one. It may seem overwhelming at first, but just maybe pick one thing to start working on and see what you notice. So I want to thank you so much for coming to chat with everybody and giving them these amazing tips and things to look out for when they're constipated. Where can people find more of you, or if they want to work with you, where can they come and find you?
Absolutely, thank you. I'm most active on my social media, so my Instagram is Nutrition with Norah, and that is the same for my website, nutritionwithnorah.com. That is where you can find me.
Amazing. Go check out Norah. She is a wealth of information. I will also make sure I note below all of her information so you can find it there too. We would also love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Just let us know below in the comments section. Norah, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. This is my pleasure.
Till next time.